Hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show. I am your host, Michael Mamas, and we're coming to you from Mount Soma, home of the Sri Someshwara Temple in the mountains of Western North Carolina with all of the beautiful fall colors. Well, let's take a look here. Did I have some announcements I've got to go over with you here? I wanted to talk a little bit about the gun violence, the thing in Maine, and then Israel and Hamas and all that. And, people are looking for solutions, of course. And there's only one solution. And we've talked about it in the past, and that is, clean the fishbowl. Global consciousness needs to get cleansed. Because when there's cloudiness in global consciousness, that's when people just start thinking wrong, thinking in small ways, anger, aggression, negativity, all those things get stirred up. And talking about it or creating laws or, fighting back and, killing some more people or something like that, that doesn't make it go away, The only thing that makes it go away is to clean the fishbowl of consciousness so that people start functioning in harmony with nature, their own true nature and Mother Nature. And that's really what I have to say about that. In the past years, I commented on these podcasts about the news and that, but it's just gotten so absurd and so ridiculous, not just with the wars. Wars have been going on for a long time. But just with everything in politics now, and so it's all coming to a head. It's all going to resolve soon, and we've talked about that in the past.
Michael, I was watching some commentary on what you were just talking about with the gun violence, and they went back to first time I've ever heard. You talk about the cleaning the fishbowl, but when they eliminated the the asylums, the mental asylums. I don't know if you remember, that was back in the 60s or something. I think they finally did away with those.
Oh yeah,
or was it 70s?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they did away with those, but they were supposed to build these treatment centers after that, which they never did. And so basically they just eliminated the asylums, put everybody out on the street. So you had two problems, mental health people without any help and all these people just on the street.
I didn't know that.
Now they're free, so
terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the idea of having these centers, and I've heard one other candidate talk about that, how we need these mental health facilities to kind of to help more deal with the people are just psychologically need help.
I remember I was talking with my teacher Maharshi. This was decades ago, and I was talking to him about how I was in vet school. I was going to graduate as a veterinarian, and I just mentioned to him that one of the things that veterinarians are involved with, and a lot of people don't know this, is public health. And I remember he just kind of scoffed. He just kind of smirked, and under his breath, he said, public health. Public health, we don't know how to do public health.
Yeah.
In the world today, they don't know how to do public health. Public health is about cleaning the fishbowl, and that knowledge has been forgotten. Now, why? If that knowledge there, and it's in the Veda, why was it forgotten? It's such a great thing. Well, the fishbowl doesn't get all gunky and dirty overnight. It takes time. And it's taken thousands of years. So thousands of years ago, this technology was around and it was well known. But the fishbowl was clean. And so the technology, if they didn't do the technology, the fishbowl was clean. 100 years later, still clean. A couple hundred years later, still clean. And so the knowledge gets forgotten. But at some point, it gets so bad that we look for the knowledge, we find the knowledge, and then we bring it forth. And so now we have this technology of how to clean the fishbowl, and that's what we're doing at Mount Soma. And it'll happen, it'll happen. So it's a cycle, and it just makes sense. Kitchen remodeling is still going on, so there's still no food service at Mount Soma for the time being, but that'll get fixed, and we'll have a beautiful new kitchen. Okay. I just made a note here. Gyan is foundation of success. Gyan meaning knowledge. I guess that's the point of this whole podcast, really, is that awakening to that deeper level of existence, that field of pure knowledge. Knowledge, not only, certainly not mental, intellectual knowledge, but deep knowledge, experiential knowledge. That's the key to success in life. But I saw along those lines, there's a beautiful quote. I think, many of you probably know it's Aham Vishvam. It means I am the universe. And I've talked about Brahman consciousness and how in Brahman consciousness, I am that pillow or whatever it is you're looking at in front of you. I am this room. I am the view I see out there in the distance. I am the universe. I am the totality, all that. But Maharishi once, I understand, phrased it a little differently. And it's such a beautiful, there's so much depth to phrasing it that way. And that is to say, instead of I am the universe, my universe is myself. And I don't know, words are a subtle thing and they make a huge difference. So why did my universe is myself? Why did that impact me so much? And that is, think about in Brahman consciousness, and keep in mind, Brahman consciousness, Brahman is not a thing. There's the material world and all the things in it. There's the unmanifest. Sometimes they call it the field of no thingness. And that's true, but in a greater sense, it is the absolute. And so in that sense, maybe you could refer to it as a thing. But Brahman is different. Brahman is not a thing, even in that more expanded sense. Brahman is a state of consciousness. It speaks to the profundity of the capability of human awareness when it's raised to that level. It's a level of consciousness. So without a knower of Brahman, there is no Brahman. Whereas without a knower of the absolute, of Chaitanya, of the transcendent's still there. Okay? So let's go back to my universe is myself. What is the universe to a person in Brahmi Chetana and Brahman consciousness? Whatever is being perceived in the moment is part of my universe. It's all projected out of the Atma. The Atma is that one thing that's the source of everything. And we all have our own point of connection unique to us with that, but the Atman is the absolute. I've talked about that before. Atma, and the point value. But then it becomes this my universe. And even if your attention is on the camera, or even if your attention is on the room, or even if your attention is on the pillow, whatever your attention is on, there's this state of consciousness called Brahmi Chetana, Brahman consciousness, that includes the totality, the entirety of the universe. And so it's my universe. Is that making sense, Scotty? It's so intimately a projection of the self that, in contrast, to say, I am the universe. Well, that's kind of has the feel like I'm here and the universe is over there or out there, and I am that. But to say my universe is myself, it's all included in from the very beginning, my universe.
Well, Michael, isn't it the same for Brahman consciousness? It's like that is us, Brahman consciousness. It's like, what are we doing to separate ourselves from that realization or that, knowing?
Yeah.
Is that
There's
similar?
another quote. I can't remember where it's from. I think it's Upanishads. Um, um, Pragyanam Brahm, Pragyanam Brahman, Pragyanam Brahm. Pragya is the intellect, but not intellect in the sense that we think. We oftentimes equate intellect with our mind, but there's a deeper value of intellect. And when the word intellect is used in the Veda, it's more accurately it's spoken of as like a cosmic intellect, that intelligence, that pure intelligence that dwells within uh, one's own being, the foundation of existence, the intelligence at the foundation of all existence. And so it's consciousness. It's when consciousness is fully awake, prajnam. Um, um, then what do you have? Brahm. So we're all Brahman. Brahman dwells at the depth of all of us. It's our consciousness. But how awake are we to it? It's just a matter of becoming fully awake to our own true nature. And then you realize that my universe is myself. It's your universe. It's my universe. It's our universe. And it's your own self. Was that responsive, Scotty?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody was talking to me just yesterday. Got a little discussion about God's will and support of nature, that sort of a thing. And if we live in harmony with nature, then we receive the support of nature. And so the question kind of came up, well, the idea is that there's God's will out there somewhere. And if we live in harmony with it, then it supports us. So the question comes up, where is God's will? Um, Where is the light of God? I had to scroll down to even see, remember how I entitled this. The light of God. Where is it? The light of God is within us. The light of God radiates out through our eyes. It's in every breath. It's in our being. The light of God is being. The light of God is our being. And so God's will then functions through us. It's not something out there, well, God be willing, that's not really as accurate. It's finding divinity, the kingdom of heaven dwells within, finding that divinity within, functioning from that place. And that is how we manifest. That is how God is willing. God is supporting us. We are that. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the totality. And I think, a lot of times we don't look that way, Well, we can pray. we can pray to God and, oh, please help me, God, and all that. And those prayers can be heard. But the highest form of prayer is resting in that place where you're one with God. I think I mentioned in yet another podcast about, Scotty, about Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was being interviewed and they asked her if she prayed. And she said, oh, yeah, I pray. What do you pray for? And she says, I don't pray for anything. She says, I just listen. And the interviewer said, oh, well, what does God say to you? And she said, he doesn't say anything. He just listens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's communion. That's being there one with God, really. And even in the state of Brahmi Chetana, then that field of consciousness, that pure being, it's like he who has no name. He doesn't talk. He doesn't have an opinion. He doesn't give a perspective on what's going on, even in the here and now, right now. He's just there. He's a witness. Pure consciousness, fully conscious, fully awake, but with no bias. Making sense, Scotty?
Yeah.
So people, they go out in the world and they look for fulfillment, what will make them happy. And that's on its own level, that's all good. There are things we need, food, love, what have you. But there's a thirst within people that is seemingly unquenchable. Why? Because they look for it on the surface. But the goal there was this one expression I heard, somebody, I think, was given a high school address, somebody I knew. And he said, gold is in your backyard, dig for it. Now, the deepest meaning of that is actually quite profound. The gold dwells within you. It's in your backyard, but you have to clear the pathways, move beyond the confines of your mind. You see, the mind is far more superficial than the intellect. And the source of our thoughts lies far deeper than the mind. It's said that the mind is prana, which is life breath, the breath of the absolute. We could say that bubbling up from the field of pure Paran, up through the different levels. I won't use all the Vedic terms, up through the different levels of welling up into relativity. And that's the breath of God, if you will. That's the life force. That's the manifestation of that infinite intelligence, that field of perfect intelligence, perfect divinity. But as it wells up into relativity, then it interacts with karma. And karma plus prana, plus that breath of God, if you will, is what creates our minds. So our minds are highly a function of karmic. That's why they talk about in the state of enlightenment, there's no mind. But see, and so people try to walk around without any mind. Oh, I don't have any mind. It's ridiculous. But it's so the mind is superficial and it's largely karmic. Then the karma, oftentimes, there's a concept called vritti. These are kind of like modulations of the mind of what we think. I think you could include chitta in it, the chit, the storehouse of impressions, the subconscious that was created through the conditioning, through lifetimes and through our childhood and like that. And it's subconscious, but it colors very much and it determines, it dictates how our mind functions, what we think, how we react to things. We think it's us thinking, it's really more karma, And so even in the state of Brahmi Chetana, okay, wait a minute, life is bliss, all of that, everything's perfect, harmony with nature, support of nature, all that. But even in the state of Brahmi Chetana, you're functioning within a vessel. They say a vessel of mud. The body has karma. The brain has karma. And so even though the soul, in that sense, if you want to use that word, is pure, the consciousness is pure, there's still the effects of karma on the surface. And so, and for that to get cleaned up is no small task. We're talking about immortality in a very high sense of the word there. I think when we have the idea that if we meet a person in, Brahmi Chetana, an enlightened being, a great, Brahman consciousness individual, that we're going to be humbled by them and we'll feel this incredible divine presence and everything they say will be exquisite music to our ears and all that. It's not the way it works. For one, even if they were in an immortal state, I mean, when Lord Krishna was around, there were people that hated him, So the other factor there is that people are functioning from their mind, and their mind has beliefs, convictions, what life is supposed to be like, what they're supposed to be thinking. And so if they meet an enlightened being, they're not going to be thinking the same way. And what's a person going to do? They're going to judge that enlightened being from the perspective of their mind. Now combine that with the fact that even a person in Brahmi Chetana in full enlightenment is functioning through a vehicle of mud, it gets more complicated than people understand, Yeah. Consciousness is Brahman. Beautiful. Consciousness is Brahman. Your consciousness is Brahman. It's just a matter of cleaning the vessel. And we can purify, as we purify global consciousness, the vessels of all the people get purified. And we can live in a time of Sat Yuga. And Lord Krishna predicted, and it's really interesting. I think even the Hopis, the Hopis had something where they said that a golden age will come after the white man wears beads and the eagle lands on the moon. It's coming. It's happening. And right now we're in that phase transition period. I saw a fun quote talking about words, and how Aham, Vishvam, I am the universe versus my universe is myself. Just a little play, a difference in words makes a huge difference. Rudyard Kipling, who lived in India, I saw a fun quote of his. He says, "Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind." Words are powerful. They can be abused, which is what he's referring to there, but they can also be used. And purity of words, purity of speech, then is a very powerful evolutionary vehicle. Which is why I study Sanskrit. I'll tell you, I was a math physics major in undergrad. I loved math and physics. And to me, mathematics was so exquisitely beautiful. It was music. But studying Sanskrit, it's the same, but in another sense, it's even more so, because you get to the point where you feel, you're hearing the words of the language of nature, the sounds that emerge right out of the absolute, and they well up through your being, and you can just feel their purifying influence. It's the absolute speaking to you, through you. So for sure, right now, my hobby, what I do in my spare time, is I read Sanskrit. I'm not real good at it. I mean, it would take time to get just very fluid with it. but I can read it. You put something down and I can read it. But I'm careful with it because there's a lot of subtlety to it. And so I prefer when I read it to have a recording of the pundits chanting it at the same time. So I'll read a little bit, then I'll listen to what they chant, and then I'll read it again and listen, try to get all the sounds just right, Words are powerful. I think that's about it, Scotty, unless you have anything else.
No, I know what you mean about that. I took a Sanskrit class too, and when you get it just felt good even just saying the vowels,
Yeah.
And it was neat.
There's something just so exquisite about it, Yeah. I intend to get more and more fluid with it. I'd like to be able to pick up a Sanskrit text and just read it and just have it flow just like I was reading English, and be comfortable enough with it that I didn't have to, listen to the pundits chant that verse to make certain I got the pronunciation just right.
Right.
I'm not there yet. But
or you can talk to the pundit, or you can do it around the pundit and he looks at you like, wow, there's no weird accent. Or
right. Yeah, I'd like to get there. I'd like to get there. Fortunately, at Mount Soma, we have Pundaji right here, and he's been a great help. He's extremely supportive of everything I do. And in fact, anything I say in my lectures now, if I think might it all be controversial or misunderstood or incorrect or anything like that, I'll run it by him, And I don't think there's ever been a single time when he said, no, that's not quite right. He's always responds with enthusiasm, All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk with you again next week. Take care for now.